Right, today I've come to St Michael's Mount in Cornwall.
St Michael's Mount is England's answer to Mont Saint-Michel in Normandy, and like England's answer to everything else in the entire history of the bloody universe, it's smaller and less impressive. However, because you are not anywhere near Mont Saint-Michel when you go and look at it, it is a staggering thing to behold. An island juts out in the middle of the bay, capped with a huge castle, with gardens and houses and pubs and restaurants and shops, and a big, nice Cornish harbour to look all pretty. It's an impressive piece of architecture and well worth visiting. To get to the island, you either need to watch the tide times and wait for the causeway to appear, which it usually does about halfway to low tide, or you take a motorboat across when the tide is high. When the tide is low, you can almost walk across on the sands without need of causeway at all. Really, the only downside to St Michael's Mount is that it is staggeringly popular, so on a bright sunny day like this, it throngs with people. If you're happy to see lots of people, then that's fine, you strange person. But if you're like me and would rather be a little bit more on my own, then that can get a little bit annoying. It's a little bit unfair to compare to St Michael's Mount to Mont Saint-Michel anyway. It's a smaller site at 57 acres, whereas Mont Saint-Michel has 247 acres. St Michael's Mount was also a daughter priory of Mont Saint-Michel, so it was always going to come second, no matter what. The early history of St Michael's Mount is shrouded in mystery, although we can presume that people were there in the Neolithic period, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and the Roman period. All subsequent building work seems to have stripped away evidence that would suggest that people were there. The Cornish name Carreg Lucan Cws means rock in the woodland, which suggests a cultural memory of when the island was joined to the mainland by a strip of hazel groves, which is likely where the Neolithic and Bronze Age peoples actually would have lived before the sea levels rose and flooded the entire area in about 1700 BC, leaving St Michael's Mount an island. So the earliest reliable reference is the gift by Edward the Confessor to the site of the Benedictine order of Mont Saint-Michel. St Michael's Mount was a priory underneath the abbey, meaning that it was controlled by Mont Saint-Michel, all the way until the dissolution. No, not the dissolution of the monasteries by our friend Henry VIII, but the dissolution of the alien houses by Henry V, which took all of the religious houses that were controlled abroad and put them under firm English control, which meant that the St Michael's Mount was given to the convent of Sion in Ilsworth, which is now part of London. But this reprieve was not to last. The abbey was dissolved, along with all other abbeys, by Henry VIII in the dissolution of the monasteries. Following the fall of the abbey, the St Michael's Mount came under private ownership by the Crown, who sold it for cash, and then had a series of various owners. During the Civil War, St Michael's Mount served as a castle held for the king by Sir Arthur Bassett. It held out until July 1646, nearly the end of the Civil War. It was captured by a parliamentarian army, including John St Alban, who would later serve as governor of the castle when it was a parliamentary prison, and he would buy the island in 1659, and his descendants live on it to this day. The harbour was improved in 1727, and briefly St Michael's Mount became a flourishing seaport. However, Penzance Harbour was also refurbished in 1852, and a railway was built, allowing ships that landed in Penzance to ship their goods to the rest of Cornwall, Devon, and even the mainland of England without any difficulty at all. St Michael's Mount fell into a decline, and many of the houses and buildings were destroyed. The last military involvement St Michael's Mount saw was during the Second World War. 3 pillboxes were built around the island. The interior of the house is open for viewing, and it demonstrates the strange mix of uses that it's had over the years. Many of the rooms were converted from monastic use to private use, such as the dining room, which was originally a monastery's refectory. The walls are extremely thick and the rooms are surprisingly small, and it creates an odd claustrophobic atmosphere, especially with a number of visitors who like to walk through the house. The church is particularly lovely though, but St Michael's Mount is greater than the sum of its parts. The house, combined with the landscape, combined with the isolation, all create the magnificent edifice that it is. and it's a place well worth visiting.